Schadenfreude, a word that only the Germans could have come up with, is being applied to Anthony Fauci, who's having to raise funds to fight his legal battles. He should pay for his own legal battles like the rest of us. I'm going to have a fantastic time on the show today. I'll be talking to my friend Eddie Mansfield, who runs Paths to Grace, a brilliant treatment centre for women, saving women on a daily basis through the love of the Lord and abstinence-based recovery. I'm also going to be talking to Nathan Apfel, who you might have seen when he was on Tucker, blowing the lid off the megachurch business. How do we be human and fallen in this world? How do we survive on the material plane without being hypocritical and compromised? And sir, you promised me you would not get aroused during this. It's time for Stay Free with Russell Brand.
Wake me up again, oh, wake me up again, just wake me up again, my love, oh, won't you wake me up?
Hello there, thanks for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand, brought in, as always, by the beautiful, melodic, mellifluous tones of Jake Smith there with Wake Me Up, Wake Me Up.
Woo! I had a cheer for myself.
Well done.
Yeah.
I mean, now the first clip, actually, I mean, you're not the first pop star I've been in love with. Here is the first, certainly the top 5 pop stars that I was ever in love with, and of course did marry briefly. Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are dancing in a hardware store. Let's have a look at that and see how we feel about it, and whether it's different from me. Is it because I've been the guy with the plunger? Check it out.
In the home hardware on St. Laurent Street. Okay, baby. I can get used to calling me baby. Okay.
Oh, it's lovely, really. You can't be condemning people. It's mostly it's Justin Trudeau, isn't it? I suppose because he was in a position of actual power during the pandemic, during COVID, and there was those trucker protests and all that kind of stuff, and they labelled him as Nazis. Katy Perry, she was a good person, and I've nothing but good things to say about her. Justin Trudeau, just want to remind you again, those trucker protests, man, when he called everybody Nazis, and also when they brought an actual Nazi into the Canadian Parliament, it was like a Ukrainian Nazi, and got all the people in the Canadian Parliament to sort of like see, I think like, I may be misremembering this, but I feel like they sea-kyled. I feel like they did. I mean, that's Canada for you. Hey, listen, you lot, whether you're watching me or Rumble, on Rumble or anywhere else, please get Rumble Premium. As you can see, merch, check them out. We've got a live audience here. Give us a round of applause, you lot. There they are. That's not a round of applause, that's a wave. Now respond more. Hey, like the main thing we want to talk about on the show today is Anthony Fauci has been raising money for his legal defense as a result of complexity emerging from the pandemic period. Now, one of the things that we all know about Anthony Fauci is during his various administration positions at the CDC and NIH over the years, he received, some people say, or at least it's customary to receive, royalties for some of the products that were sanctioned and introduced during his tenure. In short, Anthony Fauci should be able to pay for his own legal proceedings. And isn't it beautiful that a pardon from Joe Biden ain't worth the paper it was written on with an automatic pen? That pardon is being tested. Let's get into this story about Anthony Fauci and his public defense. Let's have a look.
And ever since stepping down as the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in 2022, the 85-year-old has raked in millions of dollars in retirement. But that hasn't stopped a newly created website from asking Fauci's supporters for even more money. FauciLegalDefense.com has been, quote, established to help pay the costs of the ongoing legal representation of Dr. Fauci, end quote. The site also tells potential donors that their contributions to the fund are not tax deductible as charitable donations.
Well, this fund is coming amid a recent report published by the watchdog group Open the Books, which reports that Fauci earned a staggering $3.5 million in 2023 alone, his first full year of retirement. Well, the same report reveals that Fauci's total earnings in retirement, which will hit the 4-year mark in December, are pushing upwards of $13 million.
Hey, I mentioned already Schadenfreude. Now, let's just refresh our memories about that period. Anthony Fauci was broadly presented as a public hero, the voice of reliability, truth, and veracity at that time, he himself declaring that he was the science. I don't take any delight in the downfall of Anthony Fauci, just that there appears to be now a kind of reckoning tide rising in which the truth is being revealed. What do I mean by that? Do you remember how Novak Djokovic was treated during that period, that his tennis career was impeded, that he was mocked and derided? You might remember that moment, I think, at the Australian Open, where someone said, get a vaccine, before he smashed out aces. All Djokovic was ever saying is, I'm a healthy athlete, I don't need that vaccine. But here's a post that he recently issued that reminds us of that fact. Here's a post that this is what he said. Because I didn't need it, why should I get the vaccine? I'm healthy, I'm an athlete, I had coronavirus, I had immunity, I wasn't a threat to anyone, but there's no reason for me to get vaccinated. It's my freedom to choose, which is the fundamental right you have as a human being on this planet, the freedom to choose, which was taken away from a lot of people. Let me know how you feel about that in the comments and chat. Do you feel that your personal liberty and freedom was impeded upon? Do you feel that there was a kind of a whispering campaign that was tantamount to B.F. Skinner style nudging, that you were coached, manipulated, controlled, like an authoritative force stopped you from being free, all the while telling you that it was for your health or for vulnerable people in your community? And if you recognize that as a paradigm, do you see that imprint playing out again and again and again? We need to protect you, therefore we need to see your information. We need to protect you, therefore you have to stay in your homes. We need to protect you, therefore you need to trust us, whether it's climate change or nutritional information or who we should be going to war with next. You will see it in print again and again and again. This is a problem that goes beyond left and right. This is the kind of deep, insidious institutional power that has taken the throat of governments across the world. Even the cultures we're less familiar with are fighting a similar battle. It's not, I'm saying, just an Anglophonic or Western problem. It's a broader problem than that. It's also a problem that affects us on an individual basis. All of you, I'm sure, that are watching this right now, and if you don't have Rumble Premium yet, get Rumble Premium now, will have stories about people that were healthy that suddenly became sick, people that wanted to travel somewhere that couldn't, people that had funerals that they wanted to attend that they couldn't, births that took place, sicknesses, medications that were missed. Remember, do not yield to the amnesia of this culture. Now, this is an extraordinary story about a marathon runner who had a surprising heart attack. It's hashtag 25 for you, Jake. Let's have a look at this story. 43-year-old. Now, let's just read this for a moment. And remember, we're reading this in the wake of a pretty unprecedented and ubiquitous campaign to ensure that an entire population took a particular substance that may or may not be regarded as a medication. If you had asked me who was most at risk of heart attack, I would never have said myself. As the managing director of a health company, I try to practice what I preach. I compete in ultra marathons. I've never smoked. I'm at a healthy weight. I eat reasonably well. Now, if you're like me and you had the kind of experiences I had during the pandemic, you'll feel the phantom presence of the vaccine right now and wonder if it's going to appear in the text. So when chest pain began in January, I ignored it. I blamed Christmas excess. Yeah, okay. Cold weather, getting back into training. Yet within weeks, I was fighting for my life after a major heart attack. Remember, let me know in the comments and chat right now if you know people that had myocarditis, pericarditis, heart problems, miscarriages, Bell's palsy, all manner of problems that are now increasingly being revealed to have strong, inherent, deliberate connections to the vaccine that were obfuscated and masked at the time while they campaigned to shame you for killing, your own grandmother or someone else's if you didn't immediately comply. Remember, the authority is always the goal. It's the authority and control that they're aiming for. The vaccine's inadvertent. It's not like they deliberately, specifically want you to have some kind of medication. What they want is absolute control. Once you learn to look at it through that lens, you see it everywhere. I live with my partner and our 3 children in Farnham, Surrey. Life's busy as I balance work, commuting to London, family life. Exercise has always been part of my routine. Fitness is important. Looking back, I probably trusted it more than I should have. Looking back, doctors believe the earlier episodes of chest pain and breathlessness I experienced, there are still people coughing themselves to death in this very room. That's how serious the COVID pandemic is. There's people here on the very precipice of keeling over. Take the vaccine, woman. Wear a mask. Take the jab. Eat the bugs. You will own nothing, and you will be happy. While they never pinpointed the cause of my heart attack, one consultant's theory was that I have familial hypercholesterolemia, an inherited genetic predisposition, high LDL. Jake, you were telling me just yesterday that the whole cholesterol racket has been recently exposed, that there's healthy cholesterol was mislabeled and misrepresented in order to promote cholesterol medicines that are essentially a lifelong prescription, like signing up for a gym membership from now till when you're dead sort of thing.
Yeah, if you lower it, the healthy number, keep lowering it, making it lower and lower and lower, then you have to have medication that keeps it at that number for the rest of your life. And then dementia and Alzheimer's and everything kicks in later in your life. So,
oh man, we're in a zoo. It's brilliant. We had on the show on Wednesday from Emerald Coast Zoo our brilliant and beloved friend Rick. Increasingly realize that all of us are in a zoo. We're in a laboratory. We're in a farm. We're in a controlled, manufactured environment. We ain't for sure in no garden where we've got control and the ability to walk with the divine creator. We're in an environment where we're asked to give that authority, to yield that authority to a kind of synthesis of authority or a counterfeit authority, that we yield the authority that can only really be handled by God too. Listen, many people believe that overall excess deaths have increased since the pandemic. There are statistics that strongly support that, i.e., since the pandemic, more people are dying at a faster rate than before. What could have caused that? Before we tell you about the Moderna stock surging over 110%, before announcing positive phase 3 results for personalized cancer vaccines, let's have a quick look at this message from one of our partners.
Have you ever wondered how politicians seem to buy stocks at the perfect time, right before major world events? Well, it just happened again. A member of Congress reportedly bought $50,000 in a defense company shortly after the Iran conflict began. Here's the crazy part. Those trades are actually public information, which means everyday investors like you and me can follow. My friend Ross Given is hosting a free training session this Thursday, August 27th at 3 p.m. Eastern, where he's going to show you exactly how it works. He's been tracking insider trades for nearly a decade, and some have returned over 1,000%. I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I learned the first time Ross showed me exactly how to follow these trades. This is going to be big, and seats are limited. Click the link below, scan the QR code, or visit insidertradingwithrussell.com and grab one of the final spots. It's quick to sign up. You can watch from anywhere, and it costs you nothing to see how this works. Don't let Nancy Pelosi get rich alone. Go to insidertradingwithrussell.com and follow those trades.
This is a free market, and people, we're a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
That's right, Nancy. Democracy. To help the children, save the kids. Also, while we're on the subject, get yourself some She Legit. I'm not describing Nancy Pelosi there. She definitely ain't legit. But here's some She Legit ashwagandha-laden, anxiety-reducing chemical. Am I saying it right, Jake?
I think so.
So do I. Get it down you. It will control your anxiety. It will change your consciousness. I'm taking it every day, and there's nothing wrong with me. I've never felt better. Hey, listen, you lot, remember, just before the break, we were talking about the pandemic period and whether or not companies like Moderna and Pfizer were able to influence policy, or even if they didn't influence policy, whether they benefited from near-mandated vaccines that they themselves manufacture. And if they didn't, why has it become so difficult to get hold of the files and information, not only about the clinical trials that preceded the release of their products, but also about many of the results and potential complications that have come from those trials? I'll remind you that Moderna is a company that the British Prime Minister, we have so many, I can't even remember all of their names. Wait a minute, he was 5 prime ministers back. And this is the one that was sort of Indian. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I can do this. Hold on, before that, David Cameron. After David Cameron, Rishi Sunak. Yes, it was in there. Donald Trump got it wrong, actually, face to face with the guy, so I'm in good company. Rishi Sunak, he was an investor in the hedge fund that owned Moderna when Moderna only had, I think, 5 employees, certainly less than 50. And now Moderna has got enormous contracts. Let me know in the comments and chat whether you think that Moderna had an unfair advantage or benefited unduly during the pandemic period. Let me know in the comments and chat right now. Let's let's have a look at this stock. Oh, look at that. Moderna stock has surged over 110% after announcing the first positive phase 3 results for a personalized cancer vaccine. The irony being that a new category of cancers known as turbo cancers appear to have emerged in the post-pandemic era. Maybe that's some new form of long COVID. I don't know. Or maybe it's an inadvertent consequence of what appeared to be a mass-trialed medical product that was imposed upon billions of people and likely had even more nefarious results and a worse impact than we are already beginning to comprehend. I don't know. We won't know for some time. But hopefully the trial of Anthony Fauci will reveal previously concealed truth. By the way, he's trying to raise money for his defense. So there's a link in the description if you want to donate to Anthony Fauci. There's no link for that. There's no link. If you want to donate to Anthony Fauci, you've donated enough to Anthony Fauci. You gave him credibility. You gave him your life. You gave him funerals. You gave him christenings. You maybe gave him the surface of your own heart in the form of myocarditis. If you're Djokovic, you probably gave him at least one Grand Slam title. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. We've got some great guests coming up on the show. We've got Eddie Mansfield, who actually spends his life doing something worthwhile. Imagine that, redeeming and saving women that have had, that have experienced the negative impact of lifelong alcoholism and addiction. Before that, have a look at the podcast I do every Sunday with my beloved wife, Laura, where we, I suppose, try to make our mutual love of the Lord and one another accessible. You can see it this Sunday. Have a look at this brief clip. The reason this book is so powerful, the idea that the gospel begins as a tragedy. Oh my God, the Son of God came and we killed him. That's awful. Then it's kind of a comedy. And what a crazy thing for God to do, to just be a sort of a peasant guy that tells stories and stuff like that and do miracles, and then everyone around him just abandons him at the crucial moment. Then a fairy tale. When it becomes a fairy tale, there is a mystery here. And people, there's so many ways that one could attack this. There's all these people that refuse to believe that God's real, atheists, materialists, you're struck, you're born, you die. Then there's the people that do believe in God but are functional atheists that act as if some profound mystery is not taking place right now. God is here, it's happening. Something unusual, something extraordinary, something magical and glorious is taking place that is simultaneously tragic and comic and also somehow unknowable. And it's a very, very hard thing impossible, in fact, to engage with. And it brings you to a place of total submission and humility. So if you're a person like me that has thought, I can't live anymore, I can't be alive anymore, like Jason Arday, I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself. Well, indeed, the self must die. The self must die. Come out. So have a look at, this is our next guest, Eddie Mansfield. Here's a brief moment to give you some context for this wonderful man. Check it out.
I was a drug addict and an alcoholic and came to down to Destin, Florida, and went to a long-term rehab here. As I started to see my life change for the better, started to desire to see other people get the same change that I had. When I started with Path of Grace 11 years ago, we had 5 women. Every year we've added some women, and now we're up to 45, and we're actually in the process of building 8 small homes to reunite mothers and children right now.
Hey, please welcome Eddie Mansfield, everyone. Thank you. Here's your mic.
All right, thank you.
Eddie, thanks for coming on here, mate. Tell us a little bit about, firstly, are you in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction yourself?
Yes, I'm about 20 years clean and sober, but I had about 20 years out in the field doing drugs.
Ah, in a field. I ended up there also. It can be quite relaxing. So, Eddie, after all of this drug research that you were doing in the holy name of science, what is it that led you to start Path of Grace? I know about Paths of Grace. It seems like a female-only residential treatment program for women. But what makes it unique, and how's things going there?
Well, I stumbled upon the job. I didn't plan on it, but I got arrested and thrown in jail in 2006, about 20 years ago. Ended up in the Haven House, it was a men's program here, and some of my friends were starting Path of Grace. So what happened was by default, they lost their director, and I chose to come on and just do it as a volunteer job for a little bit until they found the right person. And about after 3 years of volunteering, then they said, "Hey, we'd like to hire you to run our program." So I've been there for 16 years. This started in 2010. So
Is it something? It sounds to me like it just kind of happened almost like you flowed into it. You fell into the job. Like 1 minute you're in the field doing drugs, next minute you're running a treatment center. You never even went to a job interview or anything. But when I'm around you at that place, it seems like you're doing a really remarkable job of running that place. Like, because I suppose you're a man running this very deliberately and specifically female-oriented space, and there seems to be something very sort of I want to say sort of like appropriate and holy about the sort of the way that the place is run. I was there yesterday. I went with my wife and my daughters and my little son and my mum actually, and we hung out there and we did a Bible study with the women, and it was pretty. What I want to say about the place is that even though there's a lot of brokenness there, and I notice I'm touching myself when I say the brokenness. Like I felt like I was the craziest person in there last night, actually, as a matter of fact, by some margin. And but also people are healing there together. They're talking about some. Not want to mess with anyone's anonymity or nothing like that, but the people there have experienced what I would call some of the most serious things that a person can: loss of children, loss of liberty, shame, despair. And yet there is a kind of congeniality and conviviality. What do you see your role as being there, and what are the challenges of having a role in a sort of an intense environment like that?
Well, I think that God, my past, He used what I went through in my past, which I used to be a drug dealer, to be honest. And
Eddie, this is getting worse.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is there was chaos in my life constantly for a very long time. And so now there's still chaos in my life, but it's a different type of chaos. It's chaos. I love to see, my wife and I, we love to see the ladies come in. We get a lot of people from jail. We go to court all over the state and all over, well, the country, really. And so we're taking people from jail that are broken, that could be facing a lot of prison time, and instead they get a chance at life. It's a 2-year program, Christ-centered. We flood them with God, and so we're doing our best to completely help them change from our experience. And so, anyways, we have 56 ladies now. We're building a new facility that's potentially could house another 56 ladies, and it's about 5 months from completion. And we hire from within, so everyone that works at Path of Grace is a graduate from Path of Grace, and we've got about 11 employees right now, and it's growing. So it's just it's God.
So you're building another facility so you can help even more women, and you're grabbing people, it seems, right from the gates of hell there, right from like when they're in jail. It's very striking when you listen to the women there, how the level of despair. But that kind of despair, in a sense, whether you're a drug addict or not, or whether you've been to jail or not, or whether you've lost children or not, do you sometimes feel, Eddie, that in the same way that you said the chaos of your own life as a drug dealer in a field, presumably selling crystal meth to stags and passing badgers, has somehow been redeemed in the crazy chaos of your new life, issuing and dispensing access to our Lord in this new environment? That's been redeemed. Do you feel then that in the chaos of addiction, we're looking for something spiritual? Because me, when I first got clean, I knew that God was going to be part of the answer, but it took me a long time to accept Christ. How do you find that people are pretty open to the idea of Christ? And also, are there risks if you don't provide them with, I don't know, I don't want to be dismissive, I don't want to say more practical tools, but additional tools to a loving reverence of Christ? Because, like, presumably a lot of the problems are social, economic, political, medical and stuff.
Yeah, like you, when I first got in trouble, the first thing that happened to me, and I don't even know why, because I ran from anyone that had anything to do with God, including my family, and they were always like trying to find help for me, and through God. And but when I got arrested, I remember I'd been up for days, and I was in a bad way. And the first thing that happened to me when I got in the police car is I said, "Thank you, Jesus," really loud. And I was like, "Wow, why did I just say that?" And then when I got to jail, there was one bed left. and it was I was on the top. I'd be on the top bunk. This guy below was my drug dealer, and he knew the Bible inside and out. And he said, "Man, I knew this day would come." And he said, "I want to help you." And so he, I know I went off course a little bit, but he said, let me teach you. Do you know the Bible? And I was like, "No, not really." And but I said, "I just yelled out, 'Jesus, thank you,' when I was in the back of the police car." And he said, "Well, while you're here, will you do some Bible study with me?" And I said, "Sure." So it was at that point that I just felt like my life had collapsed, but for a good reason. And then when I was there for 7 months, and it was in Atlanta. And my mom used to have dreams. She said, I have this dream that you're running a Christ-centered program. And I would say, "Mom, well, I don't think that's going to happen," you know. And so I know, anyways, this stuff just kind of came to be. And now the ladies that come here, they're eager. Not all of them come from jail. Some of them come from the streets. They call us broken, homeless from the streets. Some of them call from jail. They call from all areas of. Sometimes they find us through our thrift stores, but they find us, and they know our program's 2 years long. It's a long commitment, and we tell them, we found success. For the longer you stay, the more better chances that you're going to have at staying clean and sober. And they know that they're coming into a Christ-centered environment where they're going to be getting a little bit of something to do with God every single day. And so that's what we do.
Sometimes it's hard, I think, if you have been dependent on drugs for a long time and living a kind of a criminal lifestyle. And I suppose if you are taking drugs, you are living a criminal lifestyle because they're illegal. Yeah. Like that, it can be difficult to sincerely let go of that attachment. Do you find that some of your clients, or whatever you call them, are like not able to, and are like, "This is bullshit. Like, this ain't going to help me. It's not going to work"? Because I kind of remember those feelings myself when I first stopped taking drugs. And I also know of a lot of other facilities in my country, the UK, that aren't so overtly Christ-centered, where people just hang out there. Because in my country, it's called a jail swerve. Like, you would take that over jail all day long, rather go there than jail. And that you just hang out there and maybe even use in there and stuff like that. How common is that kind of thing, mate?
It happens. Some people come in and they don't stay, but we have a great success rate for those that do stay the full 2 years. A lot of the ladies that come into our program, they love it, and they stay there because of what we're doing with the God, and we have a lot of fun. So we balance like a lot of fun, work, therapy, and things related to God, like Bible studies and church. And we just do something all the time with that. And so they learn to balance it, and they slowly, the old self dies and the new creation comes.
Yeah, I see. So you just keep creating an environment of encouragement and availability, and you can't really control the outcome. Some people might come there for the wrong reasons. In fact, actually, thinking about that, some people might do all sorts of things for the wrong reasons, but the truth is that God is real and he will find you, huh?
Amen. I would agree with that.
So what's this new facility? Is it something we can do to be useful to you? Like maybe you need to raise money or something like that?
That wouldn't hurt.
So maybe how can we donate to Path of Grace?
Well, you can go to pathofgrace.net if you're interested in seeing what we do, and you can see on there, the new facility. It's really not on the website actually, but it will be. And we have some right now. We built what you saw earlier was the little houses. The little houses are on the website. We did get those built. Now we're building 4 more. The new facility is 28,000 square feet, and it's beautiful. It's in Santa Rosa Beach off of Church Street, or on Church Street. And if you're interested in helping us, we'd love your help in any way. We have thrift stores. We have a thrift store in Panama City Beach, Panama City, and Miramar Beach. So if you have anything you don't need, you want to get rid of, you want to go through your furniture and get rid of some clothes, some home goods, whatever it is, it'll benefit what we're doing, and we certainly appreciate it.
It's also good because women, like, they work there and stuff, and I suppose having some kind of meaningful, purposeful employment can be useful. I'm just remembering myself when I was in treatment, what I felt like was institutionalized. It's a while ago now, 23 years, but I felt like, you know what I didn't like is when you have to go on a trip in a bus. That's when I felt most vulnerable. You know, they'll maybe take you to a bowling alley or like a go-kart racing, and that's when you really feel like, I'm fucked up, man. Like, so maybe you're in, like, you know, you've got to be in a van with everybody else, and you arrive at the place, and there's no really other excuse for why you're there, like, and you're not with your wife and family. What are you all doing? Well, we can't cope. We can't cope with reality, and I've had to retreat into drug use. I like that it's like 24 months or whatever, because I remember that first year. I remember it, man. I remember, like, because you've been in a world where that's all held up sort of biochemically. But, you know, what about this, Eddie? In a sense that you think people that have had extreme addiction problems that have led to sort of criminality and those kind of dramatic downfalls that most of the women in Path of Grace and you have had and I've had in my own ways, and me, it just doesn't ever seem to end. As a matter of fact, it just keeps going on and on and on, like some sort of university of concentric Dante-esque ascendance. I don't know where it's all leading. I hope somewhere good. Anyway, like, my point is, like, what if you're just trapped in a world where you believe in stuff that's the more acceptable addictions of this world? You know, false idolatry, believing that you can just get somewhere by even things that seem on the surface perfectly acceptable. You know, do you think there's something to be said for those of us that are called in this way?
I think the answer is in the Bible, and I think that you just got to keep pressing in. And sometimes we got to search for more. I know that for instance, like when I first got sober and clean, I listened to secular music a lot, and I was like rap and, you know, rock and roll, and I still will listen to some rock and roll, and I'll still listen to country. But the Christian music has really grown on me, and I love Christian music, and now I primarily listen to that. And like cussing, for me, like I cussed a lot when I first got clean and sober.
Feeling judged, Jake. I'm feeling judged.
No, not judging anybody, but I just want to say, like, there were things that I thought were okay in the beginning, and after it was actually 7 years before I stopped cussing. Well, I worked for Path of Grace for 7 years, and then
you were cursing your way through Path of Grace.
Cussing.
Take your effing methadone.
Not
we got about 5 more years.
If I got mad, I would cuss, you know. And if I had, or sometimes it just slipped. But about 9 or 10 years ago, the right women came in at the same time, and their granddad, and they like said, you know, you shouldn't. Anyways, they convinced me.
They convinced you.
They convinced me that that there was something about it. So I started slowly, like, changing that about myself. So what I think happens is you're always going towards God or away from God. And I believe that right now, I pray that every day that I'm alive, that I'm going towards God in a greater way. And that's what we try to teach at Path of Grace is we don't allow them to cuss. And so if they cuss, they lose their phone for 30 days.
Whoa, that's a tough penalty.
So there's a little, and I know I've jumped on the cussing thing. I'm sorry, Russell, but
I'm being judged.
But anyways, no, I mean,
I was cussing there yesterday.
Oh man, really?
I better give you my phone, Eddie. You're gonna be taking us on a 30-day lockdown. I was cussing my way through the Bible.
Well, you know, it's not just cussing. I think there is just so much that goes with what we used to be. You and I and them, they've been through so much, and we all probably have. There's so much that when you're letting the self die, you're letting the self die. You're letting God take over, and you're surrendering to Him. And so that's the way I want to live, and I really love it because it's made me feel better and better and better in my life, and I've grown so much, and even from last year, and I hope that it continues.
I can tell you're effing sincere. Now, like the thing is, Eddie, like what you're saying, like the secular world, shall we call it, culture and civilization is trying to always generate a kind of an ambient charge, I call it like a sort of like a frequency, like everywhere around you, there's subtle this stimulation to get you to look at, like, I don't know, to objectify bodies, to get you to think that material objects would somehow fulfill you and satiate you, food that's addictive, screens that are addictive, sort of just low mentality. I've been watching a lot about Mr. Rogers lately and how he just sort of came from a place of just being wholesome with everything he did. And he's talking about in the 1960s, he's saying a lot of these television shows, they can't be good for children. And it's like stuff like Bozo the Clown, like we'd look at totally innocuous. And now like everything the culture is pumping into our minds and eyes is so sort of bright and saccharine and overwhelming and deliberately so. And like we can't live on that frequency, those of us that are called, those of us that are touched, and all of us are like in exile here, huh? I just feel like those of us that are addicts, it's like you've gone, I can't cope, I'm going to kill myself if this carries on. And like, you know, and alcohol and drugs is like an attempt to sort of stave off the suicide, basically. And like, hey, so remember what I thought was funny is one time we was in that thrift store. My father, Ron Brand, he'll be watching. I love you, Ronnie. Like he was visiting, and like, you know, I have intense relationships, well, basically with everyone, but like with my parents. And like my dad, when he was over, like we was having a lot. And my mate Dave, he's also in recovery, and I was like, Dave, will you come? Like, and I think I want to talk to my dad. I'm going to Path of Grace. You know, I'm going to drop them off. I'm going to see them guys. I go, but like my dad's going to be there. Maybe we'll chat to my dad. And then I thought, when I got there, I thought, no, I'm going to need more backup if I'm going to chat to my dad and get real, you know. And like then I goes to Eddie, like who's just there at Path of Grace, a thrift store, and people are coming in and out buying stuff, books, you know, thrift store, clothes, furniture, thrift store, that kind of image. And I'm like I remember I goes to Eddie, I'm just going to talk to my dad like about, you know, childhood and stuff like that. Is there a back room that we can use? And can I like, will you come in there and sort of like just be there and like witness it? And Eddie's like, yeah, sure. Like it had no kind of like charge to it at all. I feel like if you'd done that in McDonald's or if you did that in any normal social cultural space, there'd be a lot of follow-up questions of what? You're going to what? What are you going to do? You're going to try and talk about your emotions. You're going to try and have a real exchange. You're going to do what? Like, we're living like 1 million miles away from our nature. 1 million miles away from our nature. The things that are considered normal, like you might say cussing or objectification or the pornographization of everything, the desacralization of everything, not revering or regarding the things around us as beautiful. You know, nature is beautiful. It's just we've become so acclimatized to it. It sometimes feels like a long way home.
It is.
What are we going to do? Have a little cuss about it?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Eddie. Eddie, thank you so much, man, for helping with Path of Grace. You're doing great work. If you want to support Path of Grace anyway, click. We'll put a link up somewhere. It's not up yet, but we'll put a link up. Eddie, I love you. Thanks, man.
I love you, brother.
Cheers. I'll see you soon. Yeah, nice one, man. Hey, that's. Do we have a commercial break or anything like that? So. Hey, listen, we can't make this content without compromising our values. No, we can't make this content without financial support and partnerships. We try and select partners that are good. Here's a message from one now.
This is a paid advertisement for Rumble Wallet. They're sponsoring this portion of the show.
Hey, guess what? We're doing this new thing with Rumble Wallet. You can use this new chat called Rant if you're invested in Rumble Wallet and using the currencies that it facilitates. If you actually want my attention, here's a clear line to it. Here's how it works. I'm prioritizing rant sent through Rumble Wallet. If you send one and I see it, I respond. Simple as that. So comment on Rumble Wallet in the chat now. For a limited time, you can start your wallet with $5 in the US stablecoin for tipping Rumble creators like me by entering my exclusive promo code, BRANDS. With questions, hot takes, stuff you really want me to react to, don't bury it in the chat. Put it in rant. Because let's be honest, regular chat flies by, but when you use Rumble Wallet, it cuts through everything. So here's the move. Scan the QR code or use the link in my description, download Rumble Wallet and try it yourself. And don't forget to use the code BRAND5 and claim $5 for tipping in USAT. Sending a tip is easy. Open the chat up like you're sending a Rumble rant and hit pay with a Rumble Wallet. This is basically a VIP lane. You want to shout out? You want me to actually engage with what you're saying? Use Rumble Wallet and claim $5 in USAT with my code BRAND5. Then send a rant. I'm watching for them. Restrictions apply. There's a limited number of entries available. Isaac Newton. Wait a second. Isaac Newton, they say, discovered... Quiet, please. Nathan, Isaac Newton discovered gravity, they say, when watching an apple tumble from an upward branch, revealing that there's a force at the center of the Earth's core, that's pulling us towards it. What force, then, is working on the great Nathan Apfel? Theologian, advocate, thinker and critic of megachurches. Let's have a look at this clip that'll help you understand him a little better.
So, Pastor, you should encourage accountability and transparency. We saw you jet out of church before the service was even over in your Range Rover, jump curbs and flower pots, and peel out at 100 miles an hour. Why would you have 20-plus armed guards with these little participation pens waiting preemptively for an unarmed dude with a sign that has a question about financial accountability? You, sir, are supposed to be the beacon of accountability, transparency, humility, and honesty.
What you got? Please welcome Nathan Apfel. Here he is, look.
I want to give you a hug.
I could do with a hug. I'm ready.
That alligator, you know.
That's exactly where it got me. There, I need that. I hope you could. Have you got any healing capacity, Nathan? Because if you have, that's where to direct it.
Absolutely not. My wife might say I do.
Oh, actually, that's quite nice.
You know, is that good?
Well, it's quite good. I mean, it's turned me into a homosexual.
Now,
that's enough, Nathan. I've only just got over the cussing issue. What's going to happen if I start kissing men on my anniversary? Where will we go? Where will we go next? Also, you're very dishy. You look like someone. Dishy is a very British word. You're hot. I don't know. I can't think of the. I'm not used to complimenting anyone. Nathan, mate.
Thank you for that.
No, yeah, you're gorgeous. So, Nathan, you're a filmmaker, but like we know about you because we see you on Tucker and we see you tearing into megachurches and all that kind of gear. Can you I'm like a new convert, I guess, to Christianity. At the moment, I go to all different churches. I'm fascinated with Catholicism. I'm fascinated by the Holy Mother. I'm fascinated by saints. I'm having this mad, mysterious experience, like a psychedelic, transcendent experience of Christ. And yet, on some days, I just feel as normal and as worthless and as useless and as hopeless as I ever felt. So tell me, what is your perspective on our Lord and what your message is, you blue-eyed wonder man?
Well, Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father except through him. That's what I would put on the table and say that's it. I was born and raised in mega churches and in big churches, and I did everything under the sun. You know, all my girlfriends came from summer camps as kids, you know. So I sang in choir. I did it all. And then as I grew up, people that I really respected, my youth pastors, my main pastors, one was arrested for, raping his adopted children from Africa, and another was divorced. And I was just like, what's going on? Everything that I was taught as righteousness is a farce. And so I just fell off the wagon for 15 years, and I lived a life that I wanted to live. And
what do you mean? You went all decadent and hedonistic? You lost it a little bit?
Oh, in a big way, yeah.
Oh, what do you mean by that? What happened?
Well, I'm from LA, so I was a filmmaker, or I am a filmmaker, and I dabbled in Hollywood. And then most of my work took me around the world. And so I never lost my faith. There's a theologian named Dan Bramer, and he says most people put their faith in God, but not in the God of their faith. And there's a subtle shift there.
I understand.
So most people put their faith in their faith. So in the church, in the institution, in the experience, but you should put your faith in the God of that faith, because that God is very dangerous, actually. The God of the universe, Jehovah, Yahweh, is a dangerous.
Yeah, he's wild.
Dangerous energy. Yeah, he's wild.
Yeah, he's wild and powerful and crazy. Now, all right, I done it in a slightly different way. Like my country where I come from, England, it's called. We invented your country actually. We made it up. There was nothing there. In our country, the religion has become like a little bit innocuous. There are sort of exceptions or whatever. So you don't get at least I didn't get access to a sort of a lurid, powerful, potent, righteous gemstone style Christ. I didn't get sort of muck Christ. I didn't get a sort of a livid neon Christ. In fact, they'd made Jesus sort of kind of boring. All of my feelings, I felt like, psychotherapy will help. Before that, drugs and madness and hedonism and all those crazy things, I thought they would help. So this idea of a sort of a wild and very potent God, one can sort of see how trying to, harness that could lead to crazy mega church vibes. And how do we draw that line? And where do we draw that line, Nathan? How do we let God's power influence us and not turn it into some crazy corporate enterprise?
Well, not turning it into the crazy corporate enterprise. When you look at the scripture and you look at Christ, the body of Christ is an organic, moving, breathing body. Well, you talked about it earlier with there's different parts. There's the eyes, the lips, the fingers, the toes. And as soon as we try to institutionalize that, as soon as we try to package it and sell it, that's where the problems come from. And so when you look at history, I'm a big history buff. And when you look at history, especially the history of Christianity, what did that early church do in Rome? When was it initially institutionalized? That early church had no money. It didn't have big resource or big influence, but it transformed the greatest superpower of that time, Rome. And so my inspiration and my passion is how do you get back to that organic body to transform the greatest superpower, which is America, you could say.
No question.
And then that would transform the world. But it's getting the church back to that organic body.
Yes, because I think about that myself as well. I think it's living in that Babylon. It's gone through that Egypt. It's experienced that Assyria, and now it's experiencing Rome, this sort of formidable and glorious pagan and indulgent beast, huh? And yet, what is its groundings are Judaic, I suppose, to a degree. And isn't it the sort of the theology of Paul to decouple what's happening in the way of those of us that follow him from what preceded it? This is no longer about the law. This is no longer about that. But if you sort of, once you sort of deracinate, like if you let go of the roots of, say, Judaism, and like say, this is a new thing now, see, I'm doing a new thing, see how it springs up. How do you not let that get kind of glommed on to a culture that is so potent? How do you resist that?
Well, you said the theology of Paul, and I would say avoid that. It's the theology of Christ, right? We're here to get to Christ, not Paul. Paul is Acts, and he built that early church, or was a big part of that. But we want Christ, right? And so when you look at Christ, I always say he was like the first counterculturalist because he pushed against legalism. He pushed against the laws that technically his father, or however you want to define the Trinitarian God, but that Israel lived under. He said, my God, our Father does not want your tithes, your offerings, your sacrifices. Your heart posture is wrong. So we're going to bring a new covenant in. And you said it. I read your book, or I listened to it. And it was really brilliant. The title, I was like, whoa, what is this title? This is an odd one.
That was a mistake.
No, it wasn't. No, because you caught me. You got me. Because I was like, this is going to be kind of whack. And then I started listening. And I'm like, oh, he's onto something here. And so I tipped my hat to you. But you talked about where he said it's finished. And that's the most crucial part of Christianity, is if you fully believe, and I wrestled with that. So Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through him. For 35 years, I could not say that statement out of my mouth. It's really hard to wrestle with if you really wrestle with that statement. And so here's the thing, though. Once I started understanding it, and I really started getting into the scripture, and I was like, when he says it is finished on the cross, there's only one conclusion. Either it is or it isn't. But there's the old covenant of the law and the prophets, which is the Old Testament, and the new covenant. An institutional church likes to dip their toes in both of them because the legalism of the old covenant creates structure and institution. And then the freedom that's found in Christ, which is also a responsibility, because now I'm going to take ownership of my own faith, which is the journey I think you're on in a big way. Like, this is my faith. Like, I have faith in my God, not in my faith, but in my God, right? That new covenant is totally free, but it's a hard covenant to sell.
Also, it's a hard one to receive because it's killing me. It's
100%.
like
you
Eddie
die
was saying.
to yourself. Yeah.
Like it's like and like being killed while you're in the middle of your life is not an easy feeling, because like it's not like, say of course I'm talking about myself. I'm so good at doing that. But like, if I was sort of street homeless and then I find Christ, well, am I giving up some boxes and a sleeping bag? I my identity was this great big bloody thing. Like I've spent all my time making this false idol, this crazy tower, this golden calf. I've built it up so high, and when it falls down, the Lord even shows me what he's doing. Like, it's like talking me through it. I always say, like, the version of Christ I've received is like when you let children put triangles through those triangle holes, or circles through the circle holes. Like, oh, I see. Like, because I think fast and speak fast, I sometimes make the mistake of thinking I'm super clever, but I'm actually deceptively stupid underneath it. Like, because like it took me a while to realize I'm being shown this false identity you made that is now the subject of all this, in my country at least, controversy and false allegation and accusation is not real. The whole thing's not real. Do you understand? What are you going to do, Russell? Sort of cling on to it, going, or are you going to watch what's simultaneously happening? Your child is having open heart surgery at 12 weeks old. That's real. That's important. And your son's not going to die. You know that, don't you? Yes, Lord, I know. Like, it was so clear what was bullshit and what was real. And now I'm still going through in real time, like a literal trial is coming, and I'm also going through like the sort of like on a more sort of generalized way. Like when I go to sort of new churches, I'm like, hang on, like if we're just like, and I do agree with decentralization, I think that the church should be the center of community. That's what I think. I think the church should be the center of the community, but I think it has to be real. I think that we all should, like, we're all together in this. It's not pretend like a club. It's like, listen, we all lived here together, don't we, guys? So we're going to have to sort this. I was going to say sort this shit out, Eddie, but another of my gimmicks you've destroyed. We're going to have to sort this situation out. So when I go to say a Latin mass, right? I'm like, what this Latin mass does is it prevents some individual church making up their whole hokey righteous gemstone shadow puppet crap, all right, you may feel that it's still arbitrary, the candlesticks, the incense, whatever paraphernalia you want to look to. Whether it's the sacraments or whatever other cultural paraphernalia, at least it has heritage and at least it has tradition. Whereas if you're in some church today, it starts to bear the inflections of just the individuals and the most charismatic individual at the center of it. So how do you handle that the Roman Catholic Church still bears the burdens of its point of origin, but Protestant churches could be fractured and fragmented in myriad ways, and at the wrong end of it, bear the hallmarks of American commercialism in the worst possible ways?
So let's go back to Catholicism, because I really respect Catholicism. I respect Orthodoxy. I respect most denominations because they look at the Scripture and they build a theology, and then they present that as doctrine. But Christ in multiple Gospels says you've taken your precepts of men or your traditions of men, you've called it doctrine. So when I look at every denomination, all 55,000 denominations of Christianity, different Baskin-Robbins flavors today, it's all just theology, which means the interpretation of Scripture. So when you, here's a bold statement, and you're a bold guy, so you might like this, but I've said it to my sister, I said it to my wife, and both of them were like, you are just an egotistical prick. And I'm like, I don't know.
Two people.
But yeah, but so they're like, okay, Nathan, which denomination would you be then? And I was like, ooh, what's your theology? And I'm like, well, I guess it's the theology of Nathan. And they were like, you are just so egotistical. And I'm like, well, I don't know, because when you look at Christ, Christ says to follow me, and my whole being is to follow him, not to go to an institution or to give to an institution. Eddie, you're doing brilliant work. Like Matthew 25, one of the few tattoos I have. Christ separates the sheep and the goats. And he says, if you want to follow me, you're going to help the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the poor, the prisoner, the sojourner. And when I come, I'm going to put you on my right hand. And for those who don't do that, you're going to be on my left. And that is just absolutely terrifying. Yeah. So when I look at the modern institution, the traditions we've built, all of them, most of them have built institutions, and the majority of their wealth and resource and time and talent and theology goes to calcifying that system. And so you said the church should be the bedrock of the community. I completely agree with that. What is church? Church is strictly a gathering of people. It's a gathering of believers that exhort and encourage each other to go out and live like the man who showed us the way to live humbly. And when you look at the law and the prophets and all the sacrifices, the constant, for anybody who's listening who's not a Christian, the Bible is the greatest historical book ever put together. And when you get over Leviticus and those heavy books of the Torah, and you start to digest this beautiful arc of humanity's redemption in this book, and whether you tuck the Apocrypha in or not, I don't care. It's fascinating. But when you look at the overarching redemption of the Bible, you see just constant sacrifice for sin that you and I could never atone for. And then you see, per the story, a man who comes, who sacrifices his life. And whether you believe that's God incarnate or just a man who gave it all, I said this to my buddy Danny. I was like, because he can't wrap his head around Christ. And I said, well, he is a historical figure. You have to pin that. And he did die on a stake or a cross. Like 99% of historians would agree with that. So if you see Christ for what he is and what he did, and you meet him on this pendulum of who he is for humanity and how he rippled through the world and how he, most of his teachings built the beauty of the Western world, not the corrupt crony version of it, but the beauty of the Western world, which is equality of life. I respect your life. A woman, I respect your life. Because back in the day, if I had to give you a certificate of divorce, because guess what? You're worthless to this community without me, the man. Same thing with children. So I'm going to bounce around here because this is when I really start nerding out. What did that early church do in Acts? In Rome, they were taking up orphans off the streets because if my wife had a kid and we couldn't afford it, we'd just throw it out. There was no there's no value to that life. So the Christians were gathering up these kids. Same thing with the elderly. If I couldn't care for my parents, I'd just throw them out. And so the Christians were wrangling all the elders too. And so as in the worst persecution, as Christians are being fed to wolves in the Colosseum for sport, and Romans are laughing, the Christians are right outside the door just picking up all these babies. To where finally the Romans in the Colosseum were like, I'd rather hang out with these people actually. And that's when Constantine was like, you know what? This is the glue. This is the inspiration my empire needs to kind of bind this fracturing empire. So that's when we institutionalize it. And here's the yin and yang to all of this. What did Constantine do? He put money behind that early church. And so orphanages sprang up. There was no such thing as an orphanage before that. So that money created something beautiful. Hospitals, like Christians were and because of Christians, Constantine started funding hospitals. So these great, amazing, brilliant social benefits to the community were brought about by Christianity. And so I got ripped to shreds on Tucker for this. I said, Christianity is more socialist by its structure than capitalist. And I mean, like Ben Shapiro, everybody's like, he had this goony socialist on. Not at all. Capitalism's a brilliant economic driver to raise the wealth of a nation, but it leaves behind this huge marginalized gap. And who's supposed to be in that marginalized? Christians. But in America today, so let's get back to the religion business. In America today, we've brought capitalism into the church. So now the church is about ownership, profit, growth, scale, consumerism, everything our Christ pushed against.
Excellent. Excellent analysis. Excellent. Yeah.
Sorry for that rant. Apologies for that rant.
So, the thing is with your friend not being able to wrap his head around Christ, you don't want to wrap your head around Christ, you want Christ to wrap his head around you. Now, whether you want to see it as the problem of the theology of Paul, which is, he's the greatest interpreter of Christ perhaps that there's ever yet been.
No, I didn't say
No, I don't, hold on. Fuck off for a second. This isn't the point. No, this is just, we're just turning the engine over. I don't mean that in a rude way. Just this isn't the bit that I'm saying. It's not the bit that I'm saying. This is just warm up. Whether it's the theology of Paul, the interpretation of Paul of the message of Christ, him the only apostle that receives Christ, in the risen form, apparition of Christ, rather than I knew that guy, I actually watched him and we met him and it blew my mind. He's like, no, he came to me in my sin, in my brokenness. The sort of challenges is that you begin, the challenges, and this is a challenge that we're sort of wrestling with, is how do you not institutionalize it? How do we, not like Peter at the mountaintop with Elijah and Moses, go, oh my, we best build tents for these guys? No, you've missed the point. They're not going to need tents where we're going, to quote Doc Brown, we don't need no roads. So so the challenge I think becomes is that to offer a rebuttal on your behalf there, Nathan, is that no, socialism is not molecular. Christ is submolecular. And socialism is one way that you could express the infinite grace and compassion of Christ. The way I've got a little bit of vocabulary around that is because they say about British socialism, it owes as much to Methodism as to Marx, because we have this different trajectory where people started to think about socialism because we're all brothers. Hold on, we're all one family. We're all supposed to love one another, not just Das Kapital, the state should be God. Everything's a bit like a machine, like the machines we're all using. No, it understands the organ, the anatomy, the body of the church. So I feel like what you're brilliantly describing, I didn't mean to say fuck off like that. Sorry, I did. I broke all I'm worried about Eddie. Eddie's going to lunge at me. He'll go back to his drug dealer identity and karate chop me in the windpipe as if I owe him for 2 of each for 3 weeks or something. That's how they talked in my day. So my point, actually, Nathan, my point is this, that see, one of the problems we make is we think that Jung might supersede Scripture, like that Jung's analysis or Freud's analysis or your or my analysis. No, it's like what happened to me is this person that come to Christ late, or Christ chose me late, is that I already had this unbelievable vocabulary of psychedelia and New Age philosophy. And so when I'm reading for the first time in my life Genesis and Leviticus, and you're right, man, that's tough going, and the whole thing. I'm getting struck by the supernatural, literally, fertility of it. That even those ideas that you say Christ brings, Isaiah foretells that the Messiah will bring them. We don't want none of your burnt offerings. There's nothing you can give me. What can you give me? All the way through Job, another proto-Christ, and likely as old or maybe even older than the book of Genesis. Obviously not older than it's the origins of that story, but like the idea that, you are gonna suffer, because even if you think you're a good guy, that apparent good guyness is gonna burn away till it's absolutely real. And what sort of struck me about it is it's like a geometry. I'm not talking about, everything that I'm saying is a miracle that you can understand me at all, and I'm sure some of you don't, but believe me, it makes sense. Like the underneath the noise, there is a poetry, and underneath the poetry, there's something that's like geometry. Like that when you are hearing him, he's talking to you underneath where you even think you are. There is a you beyond the you that you thought you were. The you that you thought you were was some sort of false idol construct, and he's able to sort of reach through that. And sometimes, Nathan, the shock of that is killing me. And the only thing I think, this is what I think, and here's my, Acts would be, my go-to too, obviously, because of historically, where else would you go? But also, I go to some of the orders of earlier Rome, like that they gave people the ability, to have orders, like different orders, different monastic orders, different fraternal orders. Like over here, this is how we're going to love Christ. All right, cool. As long as you get these basic principles. Over here, this is how we're going to love Christ. When you try to centralize it, you would never even strive for omniscience, omnipotent, and omnipresent unless you were trying to be what? God. And who's trying to be God? Satan. And what is bureaucracy? What is institution? What is the state? What is the culture? It is Satan's tool, and it gets in everywhere. And it can, of course, get into a mega church. Like, I know how vulnerable I am to it. I know that for me, unless I am dying to myself on the cross, like the Prestige, like Schrodinger's cat, unless the Russell I was 1 second ago, unless that guy doesn't die on the cross, I'll build a golden calf to myself again. Like, it's hardcore. Man, that's what it is, ain't it?
For sure. Well, yes, it's very.
Eddie, hit me!
Why don't we do a jump into the refiner's fire instead of that? But like when you look at scripture about refining and being thrown in the dross being burned off over and over, this is what because a lot of pastors come to me, a couple very large megachurch pastors too have befriended me, and because they're not afraid of reform, which is beautiful. But they're like, what do we do? And I said, reform over and over. The quicker we can reform our systems, we keep bureaucracy out. We keep ego and pride and sin out. And so, like my wife and I pray every day, God, burn me down to nothing. So when I wake up, I'm reborn in strictly you. Fill me up from my toes to my head with you. And so I wish our institutions, our government and our churches could think like that, where it's, okay, look at the system, burn it all down. What's left standing, that's of God. Tomorrow, wake up. What's of me, burn it all down, and what's left standing is of God. And we do that to where Eddie talked about sanctification, basically. As we steer towards Christ, that is a long journey. That's a lifetime. But it's that idea of constant reform. And here's what's cool. You'll nerd out on this because you talked about mushrooms, and like in Utah, there's aspen groves everywhere. And I just learned this. Aspens are not a single tree. They're connected by their root structures, and they talk to each other, and they send nutrients to each other. And guess what? Bad ones die. Like, that's the thing. And so when you look at nature and even seasons, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so there's no seasons. But as soon as I moved to Utah, you start seeing this birth and death and resurrection cycle over and over again, and all throughout nature. And you look at Christ. He's telling us what to do. He's showing us what to do. We need to die to ourselves every day, and we're reborn in him over and over and over. And nature's screaming that at us, and we're not listening. And so Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
It has to be true, innit? Because, like, you see how, like, the 3 days, the 3 days at the temple, the 3 days at the wedding, the 3 days in the tomb. It's telling you in a weird, poetic way. Jake's very good on the spontaneity of him. Jake says that he would have been our Lord most spontaneous, like that he will walk along and there's a mustard seed and there's a mountain. And, like, the way it reads is that way, particularly Mark, I'd say, like, that it's like it's just the flowing narrative. Now, see that thing you said, the theology of Nathan, you're mad. I'm with your sister and your wife on this one. And I'm going to do that joke again because it didn't land. And I hope that that's two different people. That's just a joke I'm doing for people. That's just a joke. No, it's like, so, Jake, that thing there, mate, that I'm trying to say is like, I'm so pleased with my crap joke that I can't remember my important point. Like about the sort of spontaneity of our Lord. Hold on, I'm nearly there. I'm nearly at it. Jake, did something come up for you when we were talking? Because it happened. Something came that I'm supposed to say to you. I can't remember what it is.
I think in time and space. I mean, in time and space.
Oh, yes, is it? Yeah. See the theology of Nathan, right? The rich young ruler. Like the rich young ruler, he has to, like, that's what that dude's got to do. Like, like I'm doing it already, but I'm already loving my neighbor with all my heart. Keep going. What you know what you're not doing. You know what you're not doing that you're supposed to do. Like us, the shit we're talking about right now, Yeah. I know my thing. Like, I just, like, you sort of try and pretend you don't know. So, like, what do you think about that and what our man Nathan's saying about the theology, like it was a personal theology?
Yeah, I think it's what we keep getting hit with over and over again, but the idea of Christ as us is something that we don't talk about a lot. Christ in us, Christ through us, Christ as us. I don't even remember ever hearing that. I mean, you're going to be a little Christ walking around as a model, but I mean, the theology of Nathan, I mean, that's really what it is. It's like Christ as Nathan.
Yeah.
And I think that's a concept we forget about.
And you can, hopefully, tomorrow I wake up and I go, man, my theology from yesterday is completely botched. Yeah. Like, I was so about myself. And this is one thing that I think pastors can get in trouble with is they become the authority and the voice of authority. They become the shepherd, the good shepherd, and there's only one.
Because it's exciting.
Yes, it is.
To have that job.
But so it's like, man, God, refine and reprove me over and over. Break me down, break me down, break me down. And so that's where it is my theology.
Don't you see how madly sort of stoic that is and how madly Buddhist that is? Like when Marcus Aurelius says, you are dead. Now live the rest of your life properly. When the Buddhists say, put down the corpse, you're dragging the corpse around. Like every morning I pick up the corpse of Russell, try and make it like jangle around down the road. That guy's dead. He's gone. Forget that guy. He ain't going to help you. He ain't going to help you today, mate. You're in a whole new battle right now. What do you think about Gethsemane then, mate? What do you think's going on in Gethsemane then? What's going on between Romans 7 and Romans 8? Why does our Lord get to that point where, what is he feeling then? What is he feeling? What's happening there?
When he's in the garden.
Yeah, why ain't it that he's able to access a transcendent experience of grace? Why is it that the man Christ rather than the divine Christ is at the forefront in Gethsemane? Why we got to suffer like that? I don't like suffering. I'd rather do drugs and lay around.
Well, there's a lot to unpack.
Well, that's why I've asked you.
Well, from a Trinitarian perspective, when Christ was on the cross, and his last words. What were his last words on the cross? It's finished. So right before that, he goes, Father, why have you forsaken me? So in the garden, he prays what? He prays, your will, not mine. And he's sitting there, and this is a big deal. So if you talk with Muslims a lot, like very often they'll think Christians are polytheistic because you have these three separate gods. No, there's only one. And so God's wrestling with himself because he's this energy out there and he's come down as man and he's saying, I don't want this cup, man, because I'm going to have to suffer. And so he's sitting there, but he still says, it's not this physical will, but yours. And so he passes that off. And to me, that's so
that
incredible.
Jacob Israel shit there. That was clever.
Well, there's huge, I don't know. The Bible is so brilliant. You can go back to Jacob and Esau. You can go back to Cain and Abel. You can go all the way back to the garden with this. But it's God coming down and wanting to feel everything that Russell's going to feel and say, I'm going to sit here. And the most badass thing he could have done was die on that cross.
Yeah, it's badass. What about that? Because even preceding that is the spiritual rebellion. Now, see, I don't reckon that we should see Enoch in no bad way because Genesis 6, because Jude. So, spiritual rebellion and Ephesians 6:12. So spiritual rebellion precedes the fall of man, if you want to get into chronos time rather than the kairos, where it's demanded that we must remain. Like, what I'm saying is that see, when you said that the Garden of Gethsemane, and that was very smart, because I didn't know that till you said it, so that means you told me something, and I hate that.
You better quote him every time from here on out.
I'll quote him twice, Jake, then it's mine.
Say it was yours.
Like, first time, I spoke to this guy, Nathan Apfel, and he sort of said that Christ in Gethsemane is really a reiteration of Jacob, Israel wrestling, and then from then he has a new identity. Next time, yes, actually, that's very interesting that you asked me that question, because I spoke to this guy, I've already started to forget your name.
It's all good. It's all good.
Nathan Apfel, and he told me, third time, my blessed ones, it came to me in a vision. That the Christ wrestling is the same once again as Jacob Israel. Please donate money to my mega church here. Only I can give you this information. Only I am. Man, it's sick, messed up stuff. No, we can. If we declare it, we can kill it. If we speak it out loud, we can repudiate it. We can kill it in the flesh. So what I'm saying is that the spiritual rebellion, Nathan, must precede does precede even the fall of our kind. So you see how you did the Gethsemane go back to Jacob Israel. Jacob Israel does that and does the fall. How do you think that the spiritual rebellion in heaven impacts the fall in the garden?
Oh my gosh, dude! I thought we were going to talk about the religion business.
No, I got sidetracked. We should have talked about that. I got sidetracked. You don't have to answer that. You can answer that later. We can work about that. Let's think about it later. Let's get high. Let's get messed up on some powerful psilocybin. Let's drink. What's it called again? Let's have our.
She's got it or something.
Let's get some. She got it. She legit. She's got to have it. 10 ways to lose a guy. 50 first dates. She legit. Let's do some she legit and find out how Satan fell. Let's find out what's going on with there. What is it? What happened in them holy and heavenly realms? Who is that? What happened on that meeting on Mount Hermon? Who is that one that said you can pull the energy up from the soil? Who taught them to build those weapons? Who made the blacksmith? Who made the fire? How can any weapon forged against us prosper, Nathan? Man, that's my guest. Is Nathan Apfel. He sent me crazy. A round of applause for Nathan Apfel, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
We must not. Yeah. That was good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand. Is there something that I've not said that I'm supposed to say? Like sometimes people on the show, they need to sell something or even just have an instant
you've ever met.
Internet account.
But whether you're a Christian or not, get into the scriptures. It's the most brilliant book you've ever read.
Read the Bible.
And there is no mediator to our Creator except Christ.
There is none. And you can do that yourself.
You can do that yourself. You don't need an institution.
Don't need an institution. Thank you, Nathan Apfel. Have we fulfilled our professional obligations, Jake?
We sure did.
Our professional... That is not the name of that product, but if you do want that product, click the link in the description. I'm through with human profits. I'm going to start wearing only robes. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for our live audience. Thank you, Jake. Thanks, everyone that works on the show. We will be back on Friday. Not with more of the same or different. I'll be with my mate, Rick. There's going to be zoo animals on the show. There's going to be a crocodile in this room. But let me tell you this in advance. I don't like interacting with alligators, so that thing better not touch me. He better not come in here with a live serpent of any kind. I don't need that crap, baby. We'll be talking about that on the show on Friday. Until then, if you can, stay free.